What's up, good people? What's up, good people? It's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder, coming to you on day 4 of this week. It's Think Different Thursday. Y'all know what we do. We think different on Thursday. As entrepreneurs, we must think differently, or as entrepreneurs we think differently. We don't think like everybody else. We don't think like the average person, because we are extraordinary. Everybody is ordinary, but to be extraordinary means you go beyond what is average, what is ordinary. And this week, what we've been dealing with, y'all know we've been dealing with these 12 forms of capital. So today, I'm going to deal with the spiritual capital and cultural capital, and then tomorrow we're going to top it off with the physical capital. So let's get right into this. I'm going to talk about the spiritual capital, and what do I mean by spiritual capital, and what we're going to talk about today. Spiritual capital. As you can see there, I do consulting for ministries that are looking to be able to, um, from a marketing perspective and a marketing and branding perspective, getting your ministry out there in front of those that need the spiritual aspect of your ministry, or the spiritual aspect of the church, doing that kind of work. But what is spiritual capital, and what is I'm sorry, I can't do this. What is spiritual capital, and what is cultural capital? Spiritual capital means that piece of you that you bring to the table that others may not have. You bring a spiritual component to what you are, the person that that someone may ask, "Hey, can you pray for me?" You may be that one that says, "Hey, I need to talk to somebody. I'm going through a little something right now. I need to be able to have somebody to talk to." And I'm coming to you because I know the spiritual foundation that you have, the groundedness that you have in your beliefs, who you worship. And I'm talking me. I'm a Christian. I love my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. If you're offended by it, then you may get offended by it. But that is who I am. That is what I am at my core. And I don't push anything on anyone else. But that is who I am. So my spiritual capital that I bring comes from that lens, where I know, hey, I'm grounded in this. I'm grounded in who God is. I'm grounded in what I seek to bring to those who are around me, those who may have an encounter with me, those who are my friends. They know, hey, Leroy had the part of our relationship that I know that he brings is that spiritual capital. I know that he has certain morals, values, beliefs that he carries with him into any door that I walk through, into any room that I walk in. I know when I'm sitting at that table, that part of me is my spiritual capital. So that's what we want to think about today. If you don't have this capital, I told you it's 12 of them. You may not have this one. There's some people that may say, you know what, that's not something that I know that I bring to the table, and that's okay. That's okay for you. But there are going to be people that you may be around that have that component, that have that spiritual capital that they bring to the table. They're grounded in it. They can be that source of strength for you, because you may be going something. And hey, and as entrepreneurs, you may need that yourself. You may have to have it because it's part of who you are, and it assists you in being able to get through the situations that you get through. So think about that. Think about spiritual capital. That is something that people bring to the table. What spiritual capital? Or do I have someone in my circle of impact that has spiritual capital? Do I have someone on my staff that has that they bring into the workplace or into the? You got to be careful about that being in the workplace, but there may be a group of you that has that component where you collectively come together because of that commonality that you have with each other. People do it on jobs all the time. I know that Tony Dungy, the coach Tony Dungy, I believe him and there were groups in the NFL. They're groups of men that play football. What they do, they prayed, they had Bible study, they did those things to give them that spiritual capital that they needed and wanted amongst each other. And if that's what you want to bring, I know I want to be able to have people around me that bring that to the table. Because I know not only do I want to bring it, but I also want to be around people that can bring it. Because I need pouring into just like they need pouring into. So that's another capital. And then the second one that I'm going to deal with today is community capital. we talked earlier, I'm sorry, cultural capital. I'm sorry, not community capital, because I dealt with cultural capital. I mean, community capital earlier. Cultural capital. What do you know about your culture? Yeah. What do you know about your culture? Your culture should just be learning about it more than just in February. What cultural capital do you bring to the table? Do you know about your culture? Do you have a family culture? What culturally is a part of you from your family? There are things that some families do that other families don't. There may be things that are common amongst certain families, certain things that are taught or said or schooled that are common that all of us have heard amongst each other. Those are things culturally. What do what is that you bring? Can you give someone who may not know about your culture, can you show them some things, whether it's in word, whether it's in deed, whether it's in action, what being cultural capital is? Giving someone an experience about your culture that they would not have if you weren't there. And that's, truth be told, that's part of what makes diversity so great. When you have different cultures that can be represented at a table, because it gives you the ability and it gives them the ability to learn from a cultural perspective what, who and what you represent. And so we can't take that lightly, being able to bring that cultural capital to the table, in the room. Bringing cultural capital in the room can be powerful, can be significant. And I know there have been times when I was in corporate America, I was the only one. I was the only one in the room. Or I was one of two, at most three in the room. Growing up, the elementary school and middle school that I went to, being one of maybe, I think it was maybe two of us, maybe three of us, young black boys in my school, in my church. So I grew up having an understanding of who I was culturally. but being able to bring that culture to where I was, being where I was important. And it was something that was instilled in me to understand culturally who I was, and to be able to stand in it, not being afraid to stand in it, and being unashamed and unafraid to be who it is that I was called to, who I was born to be. This ain't something that can go away. So understand that culturally, what do you bring? What do you know about your culture? Do you have do you have instilled in your family a sense of culture? And then how do you instill that in the next generation? That's how they get the cultural capital. Because it's got to be poured into you. We've got to teach. We got to be willing to learn, but we've got to be willing to teach. We've got to listen to learn, and we've got to learn to listen. When we do that, we learn about our culture. We learn about those things of who we are, and we're able to take those things into the workplace. We're able to take those things into our everyday livelihood, and we don't lose them. Don't let anyone make you water down your cultural your cultural assets. Don't let anyone force you to water down your cultural capital, because it's important that be a part of who you are, and not allowing anyone to tell you, oh, that's not who you should be. That's not who you are. Or we put on this mask in order to be able to fit in certain places. And I've seen that done, where we'll allow our cultural capital to be dismissed, to be diminished, to be ridiculed, to be misrepresented. So we have to understand what that cultural capital piece looks like. What does that cultural capital piece look like for you? How are you taking what you've learned about your culture into who you are? And that should be instilled not only in you, like I said, but it should be instilled in the next generation, and the next generation, and the next generation. And we get that cultural capital through stories being passed down, through traditions being passed down, through the things that we do from a family and personal perspective. But we also get it from the things that we learn, the activities that we may be a part of. And it's so much bigger than a month, because we should be in a constant state of learning about our culture. The more stories we tell, the more we learn, the more others learn. And that goes for every culture. There should not be any culture that is not proud of who they are. Any culture. Because we've all done great things. Every culture has done great things. And it's not for people to try to suppress great cultures, great things that have been done. We've got to be able to understand that. and know that cultures make all of us great. So what cultural capital are you bringing to the table? What cultural capital can you pass on? What cultural capital do you bring in the room? Because I know, for me, every room that I'm going in, yeah, that cultural capital is going to be right there in me. So I want you to have that, understand that with you as well. As entrepreneurs, and more specifically, as black entrepreneurs, understand your cultural capital. I was listening to this morning Roland Martin, an interview he did with good brother Dondre Whitfield. I mean, they were having this conversation about stereotyping, where we're looked at only from a certain lens, instead of people seeing us as more than just athletes, entertainers, rappers, or singers. We are so much more. That's more. That's a part of our culture, absolutely. But is it all of us, all of our culture? Absolutely not. We are so much more, and that's the importance of being outside of Black History Month, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. That we're so much more. We're Robert Smith, the richest black man in America. We're Miss Oprah Winfrey, billionaires, y'all. Mr. David Stewart, who most people, if you say the name David Stewart, they'd be like, who? Mr. David Stewart, who is the second richest black man in America. And neither one of them, Mr. Smith nor Mr. Stewart, dribble a basketball, played on a football field, never sang a day in their life, maybe karaoke, but don't sing, didn't sing, don't own a record label. But these are the folks that show us culturally who we can be. Miss Miss Johnson, I think the first name is Katherine Johnson. Yeah, Katherine Johnson. She put us on the moon. But nobody wants to talk about that. Hidden Figures. I know y'all know the movie. Hidden Figures, Miss Katherine Johnson. She is responsible for us as America being on the moon. Look it up. Watch the movie Hidden Figures. If you don't know, that's our culture. That's the cultural capital that you got to understand, that you walk in, and understand that, walk in it, absorb it, embrace it. And there are other ethnic groups, other cultures that have done great things too. But I can only come from this lens. So when you walk into that meeting, that next meeting you walking in, understand that you bring. Well, people will say, "Well, why?" Yes, I do belong here, and allow them to be able to understand the cultural capital that you bring to the room, that you bring to that space. And if they can't understand it, they can't handle it, that's on them. But spiritual capital, cultural capital, and those two kind of maybe are intertwined. Because part of our cultural capital is tied into who we are spiritually, and our spiritual capital. So when you have those two together, that's a lethal combination, let me tell you. Your spiritual capital, your cultural capital matter. Walk in them today. Think differently. think about your spiritual capital. Think about your cultural capital and what you bring when you have those two as assets, as people of who you are, or the person that you are. It's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder. I told you we think different Thursday. So I want you to enjoy the rest of your day. Have a powerful day. Have a powerful day. Make those moves that you want to make. Walk in those rooms that you walked in today. Have those conversations that you're going to have today in confidence, knowing that spiritual capital, cultural capital are what you bring into that conversation. And I promise you, you'll elevate the conversation. You'll elevate the situation, those situations, those deals that you're about to bring. Go out, do what you do, be great today. Be great. We're expecting great things. It's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder. We'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Have a great day.